Hi Connelly Clan fam! Today we are doing phase 3 of our foster care journey, which was a large sibling group. If you guys are looking for a foster care story that is dramatic, juicy, and crazy, this is the story for you. So now we are at, let's see, August of 2016. We kind of said that we wanted to have a large sibling group, and it took 3 months to get a sibling group. And we had originally thought we were going to get a sibling group of 3, and we were going to start pre-placement visits with that group. And then we got this phone call that said that they had this group of 5. It was an emergency placement. They were not able to stay with the relatives that they were had been placed with originally, that they just couldn't keep them. And so they were looking for a long-term placement for them and asked if we'd be willing to take them in. And so we said yes, we would do that. And so we ended up getting a group of 5. And so at that time, the kids were 8, 7, 5, 4, and 2. And so they came in, and that was such a crazy time, you know, getting used to. So we had Brianna and Jade and Lily and Gavin in the house at that time. And so then we got the group of 5. So now we have 9 kids. So we went from 4. One of them, you know, Brianna at that time was, I don't know, like 14 or 15 or something like that. And so she was pretty self-sufficient. But then adding in these other younger kids. And so it was a crazy time getting used to.
Yeah, it was that. It was bittersweet when we finally got to pick them up.
Yeah, we had been forever.
Yeah, we had another sibling set or group that we thought we were going to get.
Yep.
Just by phone call.
Yep.
And they were like five siblings. And somebody else ended up beating him out. Different agency got a hold of them like a minute or 2 before they had told us, I think it's going to be a go. And
this is one of those things where I feel like it's kind of like a God moment, you know, where you're meant to have these certain kids, and like everything just has to kind of fall into place. And so we didn't get the group of 3, and then we didn't get the group of 5, and then we got this group of 5 instead. And so they came in, and I feel like right away in the beginning, so we asked for a sibling group that we could just adopt right away, because at the time we had kind of wanted to move out of state. So this is all the way back in 2016. And we wanted it to just be like a 6-month thing. So in Nebraska, in foster care, if you're going to adopt, you have to have the kids in your house for 6 months.
And I think that's very common in all the states.
I do too, yes. And so we just wanted them to come in. We wanted to wait the 6 months. We wanted to adopt, and then we wanted to be able to leave. And that did not happen at all.
Well, and we were misinformed, and we would never go back at this point and say, if we could go back, we wouldn't have.
Right.
But they said this is the, I think, third.
It was their third removal
in the system, and that was it. They were going to try and get TPR.
They said that we were going to be able to just take the sibling group in, and that we were going to be able to adopt them right away, because they were going to terminate parental rights immediately and not actually have the parents work a case. Right. And so we went to our very first court hearing, and we talked to the caseworker when we got there, and she said, oh no, we're working a case. We're going to try to reunify. And we said, well, that's not what we were told. And she said, well, I don't know where you got that information at, but that's wrong. Yeah. And so that was the first thing. And so then at that point we had to, we had this discussion. Okay, well, do we keep this group, or do we go look for what we were looking for? Right. So we decided that we'd hang on to them, and we'd just wait it out. And then they had told us that we could move their schools. And so we ended up trying to get their schools moved, and they came back and said, nope, sorry, we can't move their schools. They have to stay there.
Yeah, and it was a 45-minute trip.
One way.
One way.
Yeah, so far away.
Yeah. And yeah, that doesn't usually work. It sounds like you could do it, okay?
Yeah.
Especially if you weren't working or, had...
Right, sure.
But the fact of the matter is the kids can get sick an hour after you drop them off, and you just get home and you've got to turn around 45 minutes there, 45 minutes back.
Yeah, pick up just one.
It was a very short-term solution to that problem.
Right. So we took the kids in thinking we could switch their schools, and then we were told we couldn't. So then again, at this point, we had to decide, okay, are we going to keep them and continue driving them 45 minutes? So, you go 45 minutes to drop them off and then back, and then 45 minutes to pick them up and back. And okay, so we're like, okay, we'll leave them in their school if we can maybe work with the mom, the birth mom, to maybe potentially have them move to our school. And eventually, it took like 6 months or something like that. Eventually, they were able to move to the school near us, but it took a long time.
Yeah, it did.
So that was another thing that happened that I feel like we were just completely misinformed. And so we had the kids then, we kept going to court. So in foster care, you go to court and it's like every couple months. So you go and have a court hearing, and I feel like it's typical that they'll just delay it or they'll...
Yeah, it's called a continuance. And once you have participated in the foster care system for like a short period of time, and you're working together, with the GAL and trying to figure things out, go to court. We didn't miss a court date.
Nope.
And it was a long journey, but the big thing was the biological parents knew how to play the system.
Right.
And they could buy themselves time by showing up to court and firing their attorneys at court that day, that morning, that afternoon, and all of a sudden the judge is like, well, we can't hear this, this case today. We've got new attorneys. They need to be briefed. And so they would buy themselves another 3 months. And then we'd go to the next one, and there would be another reason for a continuance. Or the next time you'd go, there was a reason on a different side of the case that would cause them to need more time. So it was like years would go by. If that's what it felt like.
I know,
it was
so
at
crazy.
least like 8 months sometimes between any result out of court.
Yes, I feel like that happens all the time. Court gets continued all the time. And you're right. So you will have birth parents who this is their first time and they know nothing. Mm-hmm. And you have parents who, their children have been in the system multiple times and they are well seasoned on what's going on.
Manipulate the system, and the system is set up for them. I mean, that is what it's designed to do, is get those kids back to the parents.
Right.
Which is great.
Yeah,
but
sure.
when you've got
not when
drugs,
you have somebody that
when you've got a very obvious situation, and it's obvious to every person in the group,
right?
But yet the mom and the
mom and or dad,
know how to work the system, man. You are just left in limbo, and that's why we ended up where we were time-wise with these kids.
I know, because it took forever. So they would just, so court just kept getting continued. In the meantime, like the kids didn't have a visit. So we had a couple different situations going on, and I feel like this happens a lot too. So we had a birth mom who was the birth mom to all the kids, and we had a birth dad who was a dad, like a birth dad to just one of the kids, and then a stepdad to the rest of them. And but they had separate cases. So we had the birth mom had a case going, and then this dad that was birth dad to one kid had a case going. So they're separate. And so that's why talking about like one person can fire an attorney and then another person because they were considered separate. When you have kids in foster care and the parents are trying to get them back, really it's supposed to be that the parents are proving themselves. So showing that they can do this, and that is why they should get their kids back. And I felt like in this case, and I think I'm sure it happens in other cases, but in our case I felt like it was really bad. We had not dealt with that before, where the birth mom would request like she would come have a visit, but she needed a hotel room.
She needed free food for the kids. And it was like, wait a minute, isn't that part of parenting, being able to provide the food for the kids at lunch?
Yes.
Instead, I felt like the state would pay for the pizza and do that. If she needed it, she got it, and it looked really good on our part.
Yes, yes, and it did. It made it look great, but yet it was the state that was paying for everything, and I just feel like that does such a disservice, not just to the kids, but to the birth parents, because when that happens and they're not proving like I can do this,
right.
They tend to get those kids back and then fail because nobody ever made them
really
show that they could,
really prove themselves and buckle down and start to raise their kids during their small, window of, time to prove themselves. And
so we believe in reunification. If
absolutely,
if it's best for the kids, like in our minds, we just want to always do what's best for the kids. And so we 100% believe in reunification, but I do feel like it should be a thing that they make those parents actually show that they can do it. So that way when they get the kids back, they know, like those parents know they can do it. There's not a question. They don't feel put on the spot. They don't, because I feel like more parents are going to succeed after the fact if they were to do that. So
we're talking about drama and juicy, and I mean there are so many parts to this that we haven't talked about. But the first drama that happened was in the process of picking the kids up. We found out that bio dad had taken off, basically taken the kid, kidnapped her, basically.
Oh yeah.
Which I don't know if that's really kidnapping if the biological dad takes the kid. But he was required to. He
was supposed to turn her over to the state, and he had taken off.
And he ran for a week. He was gone, and they couldn't find the fifth child in the sibling set.
Right.
And he ended up, I think, turning her over.
Yeah, he did.
Got in no trouble for running for a week.
Right.
Putting the daughter in jeopardy, because at that point she was not safe. There was no way she was safe.
No, because they were on the run, right.
And we've learned since then some really horrible things about what he was doing to the kids.
Yep. So it ended up taking, for the first 17 months of our case, it kept getting postponed. Court kept getting postponed. So in the state of Nebraska, and I'm sure this is probably common in other states, you have to have adjudication within 6 months.
Which is where they basically look at all the circumstance surrounding the removal of the child from the home and decide, is there an actual case here even?
Right.
So here we are 16, 17 months into the case, and they haven't even adjudicated and said these kids were rightfully removed.
Right.
So it was it was nuts.
So adjudication is them saying, yes, these kids should 100% be in foster care. And so 17 months later, we finally get to adjudication. And at that time, the parents ended up trying to get it thrown out because they said that it wasn't fair that adjudication took 17 months and by law it's supposed to happen within 6.
And it was them.
And it was them that kept postponing
all of the continuances. It would be 3 months, 4 months later, with nothing happening because the bio parents and their attorney decided to,
kept postponing it.
We need more time to do whatever it was.
So that was so crazy to me and it didn't fly. Like they adjudicated and said, yes, these kids should be in foster care. Yeah. But I felt like we were like, wow, what? How can that even happen? So now we're already a year and a half into this thing, and we have now adjudication finally, and we had been taking the kids, like, the kids really needed a lot. So we had like speech therapy and occupational therapy and physical therapy, and one of them had asthma but wasn't taking medicine, and so got her medicine, and we had they were like seriously, like severely behind in school, and so we were trying to catch them up with school, and they had a therapy like they didn't have they had some behaviors, but like behavioral therapy we were doing, and
it was the first month was very intense with them. We had found out, and we really didn't experience a lot of kids come directly from foster care or from being removed to our house.
Right.
But these kids, we're talking eventually 5 kids that didn't know how to use the restroom and wipe, brush their teeth.
They didn't know what shampoo and conditioner was.
Their last name. They would call themselves their first and middle name.
Yeah.
And we'd be like, well, what's your last name? And it's crazy.
Yeah,
but
they didn't know.
And they did have a more than averagely difficult name because it was hyphenated. But at the same time, we have been still to this day are trying to catch them up to where they should be.
Yep.
We have just now gotten some of the younger ones up to a point where they know the months of the year. They didn't retain a lot in the beginning, I think, because of the shock of moving and stuff. But
sure.
I mean, it is intense when you find out these kids can't read, they can't write, they can't say that they don't even know their last name, and they should have known it 4 years ago.
Yeah. Some of them didn't even know how old they were really.
Birthdays, none of them knew
didn't know their birthdays. Yeah, it was.
It was
crazy.
It was total neglect. I mean, there was nothing else that you could say. They were neglected.
Yep. Yes. So, so we spent. Obviously, so we're at 18 months now. We're finally adjudicated. I mean, we've been spending this whole time trying to get them caught up and teach them just regular life skills. Yeah, and catch them up in school and. But they were good kids, and we did. Kids. I could not say enough about PCIT therapy, and it is like what I tell all of the foster parents I talk to. We used the pride skills in our house, so we didn't do full-blown PCIT. We just used special play and the pride skills because one of the kids came in, and like the first thing she did, she walked in, she looked at our dog and said, "I'm going to slit your throat," and we're like, whoa. And then she ended up having all kinds of
she was only like 4.
She was 4, yeah. And so PCIT we've used with multiple kids, and it's phenomenal. I can't say enough about it. But, okay, so 18 months now. So at this point, the kids are finally adjudicated, and now they're going to start having regular visits. So, and when I say regular visits, I think it was with both. So with birth mom and then one of them with their birth dad. The other dad was not in the picture at the time. And
he never did come into the picture.
He never came in, right. So on a visit, and it happened to be like one of the first visits the kids had had in a really long time. And they come back and they tell us that their mom was pregnant again.
Oh, yeah.
And so now we have a 6th one coming. And for that, what ended up happening was she did not want to lose that child. Of course, who wants to lose their kids? Nobody wants to lose their kids. And of course, she did not want to lose the baby, and she was really worried because she already had 5 kids in care. And I'm going to be honest, they don't always take the babies. You know, if they have another one, they don't always take them.
Right.
So she was going to try to leave town. So up until this point, she had been living in shelters around our area, and so she did not want to lose the baby, so she wanted to move somewhere else. So she ended up moving about 4 hours away, and
at first she moved across the river, which is
she did go
into Iowa,
into Iowa,
which was literally, they put a red flag out.
Yeah,
when they find out that a mom is expecting that has the potential of needing the kids removed quickly.
Yeah.
So she went literally, down the street. And thought that was going to do it because it was in a different state, which does muddy the waters. But at the same time, when you're that close.
Yeah. Because it's we're right on the border of Iowa. So
so she ends up going over there, gets put in a rehab house, or I don't know.
Yeah, it was a shelter.
A couple of them. She kept getting kicked out of the shelters.
Yeah. So eventually went 4 hours away and lived in a shelter there. It was supposed to be a program that helps expecting moms that have trouble, and so the baby got removed. And she did come to us, so we had to drive out there to pick her up. And let me tell you what, this is probably one of the worst days of my foster care career because if you can imagine, we drove to the hospital and we had to go, and we had a worker with us that met us there, but she wanted us to come up to the room, and so we had to go like in the room, and they wanted us to like load the baby up into our car seat, and here we are taking this newborn baby
out of the arms of her bio mom.
Yes.
Who we knew. I mean, we had many conversations,
sure.
dealings at the doctor's once in a while. She would show up at a place.
Yes.
And so we knew her and had, dialogued with her about things, but that shouldn't have been done. That removal, I felt like needed to be done by a professional.
Yes.
And it needed to be more legal. It needed to feel different.
It did not feel right. Going in there and just taking somebody's baby.
But there were workers there. They were in the background letting us.
Yes. And she had some supports that were there with her, that were not happy, and I understand why.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was horrible. That was a horrible day. And so we bring her home, and they open up a brand new case in that
area, jurisdiction.
in that county, that she was in. And they end up, so we had her for 4 months, and that county ends up saying that she was doing well. She hadn't done anything wrong during their case, and that she seemed to be okay. And so they decided that they were going to give the baby back. So they gave her back at 4 months old to the birth mom. And, we have since learned that there was somebody on the other side that was an amazing woman that happened to be there for her and the baby and helped make sure that the baby got taken care of, which, thank God. But she did a lot to help them out. So during this time, we're like, let's say, so she was born in 2017.
Yeah, Charlie was born in 17, I think.
2017, October 2017. And we got the kids, so I guess that was only a year, so they hadn't even been adjudicated on yet. So now I feel like after adjudication happened, she started finally showing up for visits, having the visits. That's when, after she had Charlie, then she was coming from where she was living to Omaha, and that's when they were paying for her hotels and food. And she ended up going to therapy with the kids and trying to work out that. And okay, so in the meantime, now they have like filed TPR, termination of parental rights. They total on our case, they did it 3 times. They filed termination 3 times.
And then withdrew it.
So
because, not even necessarily because she was doing great. It was because they didn't feel like they had enough to do it. The attorneys all needed to be on the same side. The state needed to be on the same side. We kind of needed to, I don't know that our opinion would have mattered, but
they always say that they will not terminate unless they feel like it's a slam dunk.
Yeah.
And that was the only way that they would do it. So they would file it thinking it was a slam dunk, and then all of a sudden she would start working really hard, and then it would throw things off. And so then they'd have to cancel the termination. And then as soon as they cancel it, she'd start to slip, and then they'd file it again, and then she'd start to really, that just happened over and over and over. And so it was like, I felt like they were just determined regardless, no matter what, to return the kids back home. And
she had a lot of support out there. She was not from that area of the state.
Nope.
She got there and really had a support group formed really quick.
Yeah.
They had, the program she was with provided a 5-bedroom home.
Yeah.
For her, not too long after being there, a couple months or something like that. Basically, it was all vacant except for one of the bedrooms where she would stay, just in hopes that someday they'd get the kids back.
Yep.
Then somebody else gave her a van, which she ended up totaling.
Yeah.
It was so obvious that even though people would give her things, homes, vehicles, it would fall off because she would ruin what they had given her. And the last thing we wanted to do was put these kids in that kind of care where it didn't matter how much money she would be given, what kind of living arrangement she was given, how much therapy was offered and not taken advantage of. Yeah. It was just so obvious. But
there's a lot of red flags. I felt like why the kids shouldn't go home.
Right.
And again, I felt like it was one of those times where she could have stepped up and showed that she could do it, but they weren't really requiring that. And so then there were kind of all these red flags sitting out there, but they didn't really want to terminate because they didn't feel like they had enough. And it was just this gray area. But by this time, the kids had been in foster care for like 2.5 years. And so now the 2-year-old is now almost 5. And
knows nothing other than us really as parents. I mean, she knew who the bio mom was. And she would refer to her, but we were mom and dad, which is obvious. I mean, that was a very critical age for her.
I felt like at this time, this is really when things started getting bad because she did not, I mean, she wanted the kids back, but she didn't necessarily want to do everything that she needed to do. But that is when she kind of got, I feel like, mad at us. And we had a pretty good relationship in the very beginning with her, and then it kind of just went way downhill. And that was just, I feel like, because we had expectations, and she just didn't, I don't think she necessarily liked it. I think she looked at us as a threat. And I think that happens a lot. I think.
And that's when some of the dirty stuff comes into play, where you're getting CPS called on us for absolutely nothing. And you have to go through the questioning and the delays and things. We never had any problems proving. I mean, we had a great caseworker who would literally come out in 5 minutes and say, let me investigate this. And it was like, wait a minute, that doesn't even exist, what she said. She talked to the kids and...
So, we, in our very first case, we had a pretty good relationship with the mom. And so I just expected that to happen in this case too. And then it didn't. And we went through some things that we hadn't ever gone through. So the birth parents called CPS on us and we had to have an investigation done. And of course, I mean, they couldn't find anything because we hadn't done anything wrong. But then she, for some reason, I don't know what, she was helping. We picked the kids up from therapy one day and it was them at therapy, and she buckled them in the car and then turned around and called and said that our back seat was rigged in with bungee cords.
The seatbelt was. Or something.
No, it was the seat. Yeah, the seat. So we had an XC70.
Which is a Volvo.
A Volvo XC70, yep.
The back safest car I think we could have bought.
Yeah, right. The back seat sits the opposite way in those. And I don't know if that's what threw her off, but I don't know where the bungee cord thing came in at. So she called and complained and said that we had our back seat bungee corded. And so we had to have like the workers come out and check our car and make sure that everything was okay.
And they were the original factory seats bolted down.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
Couldn't even.
So then so then I was giving the kids melatonin, and so then she had said like I was drugging her kids, and I ended up having to get a doctor's note just to give them melatonin, which was crazy.
I'm a certified chiropractor.
I know.
With vitamins were like an everyday thing for.
Well, you have a doctorate.
Me and my patients and our family. And
and you have a doctorate degree. I mean, just crazy, and so every time we got hit with one of those, it was like just this blow to the heart, like, oh my gosh, we're trying to do so, so good for these kids, and then you get this complaint, and
there were many times where we would go for coffee in the next morning or whatever it may be, and just maybe we need to let it go, let them go, and go back.
I know. And we had many meetings, and what we did was we usually made ourselves a pretty important part of the team. So I don't know if you've seen the movie Instant Family, but they talk about feeling like glorified babysitters, and you do feel that way. So we would make a point to make sure that we were part of that team. I did that by sending weekly emails and just keeping everybody all on the same page on what was going on with the case. My interactions with the parents, what was happening with the kids, behaviors.
What was said in the car over a long drive, they would disclose information in those car trips to school.
But yeah, once they start feeling safe in your home, they will start telling you things. And a lot of times if they feel like they're going to have to go back, then we had one of the kids start taking it back. Well, no, I didn't mean that. No, I
didn't say that the right way, or whatever it may be.
Yeah, because he was worried, I think. So, okay. So now we are at about 2.5 years. It was almost 3 years. Like we were like just a couple months shy of 3 years. And we at this time decided that, the therapist is saying that the kids need permanency, and she meant adoption, but any permanency really was going to be more beneficial for the kids, regardless of whether that was going home or getting adopted, because they just needed some stability. They'd been with us for 3 years, and there was like literally at about almost 3 years, they had filed termination and then pulled it for a third time. And so we went out and we talked to the professionals on the case. Not the caseworker. We talked to the GAL. We talked to our CASA, which is a court-appointed special advocate that we had on our case, and we talked to. Well,
we were in a lot of conversations with the district attorney too. I don't know.
Yeah, we did talk to the district attorney, but I think that was because they had decided to pull that termination. I did talk to the caseworker, but. She didn't think that this was going to work. So then we talked to the therapist, the children's therapist, and we all kind of decided that the kids just needed some permanency and stability, and it did not look like they were going to terminate parental rights. So we all decided that they just needed to go home. Like they just needed to go home and see if their mom could really do it, because that was, they were saying that they thought she could do it,
and she had the 5-bedroom house. She had a job. I think after she had wrecked her van that was given to her, she had somehow gotten another through.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah,
she had a
donation of some sort.
It wasn't a van, but it was like a car.
Right. That did not properly even fit the 6. At that point, it was 6 kids.
Yeah, and it did not. It's at 5, but they were putting 6 in it.
It's at 5, but with her, it was 4 kids. I think there's no way a back seat can hold 4 kids in the front seat there.
I think held 2 because it flipped up. There was something in the front that
middle
flipped up. Yeah.
Okay.
So we decided that we're gonna all work together and we're gonna get the kids home. That way she could actually prove she could do it or not.
And we were heartbroken at that point to come to that point.
Absolutely.
We had, it wasn't a big deal to put our lives on hold as far as our move out of state and things like that, because we were enjoying what we were doing with the kids. We were not enjoying the ups and downs and the roller coaster ride.
That's hard.
But we also wanted to give her one last chance.
Yeah.
The last thing we wanted to do is just assume through what we've heard from secondary, words from other people that, hey, let's do this. Let's send her the kids back. She's all set up for it. There should be no reason she can't do it. She had a job.
She did have
working at a reputable place, and she had been there a few months.
Yeah.
And so that was the idea, was to basically call the bluff, see if she could do it. And if she could, that's fantastic.
Right.
The kids probably, they were hopeful. I think a lot of them were worried. They were
hopeful. I think they were worried too, but they were hopeful because, that's hard. Nobody wants to lose their birth parents. And
they were scared of stepdad coming back into the picture because it didn't seem like he was ever fully removed, but it turns out they were divorced. And
So we ended up working, and they did some overnight visits, and everybody felt comfortable then, and actually the state got on board, and so they decided to send them back, and so they did. They sent them back, and they did some transitioning with the woman that was there helping her with the baby. Mm-hmm. She helped them transition, and so it took, I think it was 4 weeks of transitioning, and then they closed the case. So at this time, we decided that we're going to move. We're going to move out of state.
We left about a week after, maybe a week and a half after they had gone back to
2 weeks, I think.
4.5 hours away to their bio mom.
And we on our way, we decided we're going to go to Phoenix first, and so we got rid of everything we owned, except for what we could fit in our RV, and we packed it up and we just left, and that was everything we had was our two cars. And our RV and what was in it. And then we actually got to see them one last time on our way out to Phoenix. We stopped by, and they were with the nice lady that was helping them transition, and she let us see them one last time. And John wrote us a cute, sweet little note.
Yep.
And
they had called on John's birthday when we were down in, I think it was Texas at that point.
Yep, she let John
So
call us.
we had a couple conversations with the kids.
Yeah.
They passed the phone around. It was awesome. We got a chance to tell them how much we missed them, and that we hoped it was going good. And
and we did. We were absolutely heartbroken. After 3 years, how can you not be heartbroken? But we also
had let go.
Yeah, we were also ready for the next adventure, and we're letting go. We were letting her do her thing, and it was nice that she let us talk to him a few times.
Yeah.
But we were gone so we went to Phoenix for 2 weeks. We went to Texas for 2 weeks, and that's when we fell in love actually with Corpus Christi and the Rockport area. And we get a phone call. We had only been gone for 4 weeks, and we got a phone call that said the kids have been removed again for a 4th time.
And this was in the middle of the night, the phone call, which we're in an RV getting ready to transition to a house, and we get a phone call in the middle of the night, and I think you missed it. It was on silence because we didn't want to wake the kids with something.
Yep. And so we ended up finally, I called all over to try to figure out where the kids were at, and so we ended up talking to a caseworker, and they said, would you be interested in taking the kids back? And so it wasn't even a thought. We didn't know how we were going to do it because we had just literally got rid of everything.
We had prepaid for our spot there.
Yeah, the RV spot,
for a month.
But we're like, you know what? We want the kids. I mean, we felt like they were ours. We had them for 3 years.
They had nowhere for them to go again.
Yeah, they had nowhere to go.
And we knew if we didn't get there quickly, there was a chance they'd have to go and
split them up
be in another environment. And we were just like, the last thing we wanted was the kids to be more
traumatized.
Right.
Yeah.
Have more.
So we said yes. Absolutely, 100%. But
before we go, we want confirmation that this is it.
Yeah.
That we are going to go to TPR right away. And
yes. So we said we want to make sure, first of all, that when we get there that we can take them. We don't want them to go back tomorrow, and we've driven 16 hours back, and then we get there and you don't give them to us.
Right.
We want some assurance. And they said yes. And so we get there, and actually there was not assurance.
Nope.
They said, well, we're not sure. We're kind of looking at this. And
they knew they were in the wrong. They accommodated us. I felt like that first day we were like, okay, we're here. We're ready to take them. Where's the paperwork type of thing? And it was like, whoa, slow down. We don't even know if it's a slam dunk yet on the TPR. We don't know. And she had, Mom, I don't know how far you want to go into that. Birth mom had been caught drinking and driving.
Yep.
And with all the kids in the car after a Husker game.
So we, so they let us take them. And so we ended up, Sean's mom and dad were nice enough to let us stay in their basement until we could find a new place to live.
Well, they actually had to come out and take a couple
They
of
did
kids
actually.
Because we did not have the vehicles.
Yes. So because we did not have enough for them. Because we had gotten rid of our van. And so they did. They drove 4.5 hours to help us pick the kids up, so that way we had enough seats for everybody. And we drove them back, stayed in their basement for 2 months until we found a house. And then we still had to work a case though. We still had to go to termination. We still had to, try to get a termination done. There had to be enough proof, and there had to be this and that. And so finally, after all of that, in August of 2020, we had 5 of the kids adopted. And now keep in mind, at this time there's 6, because when they came into care the 4th time, it was all 6 of them. So we were able to adopt 5 of the kids, and then there was an appeal by one of the birth dads for the other one.
Right.
And so we had to go through all that appeals process, which takes forever. And then in February of 2021, she was adopted. And
Yeah.
Now they're all adopted.
They're all adopted. The case is closed. It's over. They're not going anywhere, which is the big thing on our end. We're set, and now we've decided after 2 years of having them back in the school they were before they were taken that last time.
Yeah.
They completed this last semester, and then we started homeschooling them.
Yep.
And in preparation, I think, for moving and.
So that was the story of our final phase of our foster care journey. So after we adopted the 6, we ended up having 10 adopted kids and 3 biological kids. And so we had 13 kids now total. You know, we've tried to do more since then. And unfortunately, the state of Nebraska has just said, the only way that you can take any more children is if it's a biological sibling. You know, we did take Christian, who's part of our other group. So if the moms ever did have another baby, either mom, we would consider taking that child in. And this birth mom did get pregnant one more time, but she lost it. We were asked if we would want to take it if she couldn't care for it, and we said yes, we would. But that is, unfortunately, I think, it for us for now. We love to be able to foster and adopt more or help in some way.
And we've been doing respite for kids.
We do respite, yep.
You know, not every single one, but probably 90% of the time we're called, we will do respite.
Yep.
And it's a pretty easy thing to handle more once you have everything in place and you've got a structured environment with this many kids.
Yeah.
There is no haphazard way of doing any of it.
No, I feel like it's fairly easy. And so, you know, now we're moving to Texas, and we would love to be able to get our license there and do what we can there. And so who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows where the next journey will take us with foster care. But that is the end of our story. Thank you guys for watching today, and we'll see you guys next time.
Bye.
Bye.